This exercise is a sumo squat. You want to start with your feet wide apart at 90 degrees. So if you can stand on a square mat with your foot on two different edges at a right angle, then that will be easiest to perform. As you squat down with your arms across your body, we want to ensure that your knees track in line with your feet. So you're going as low as you can whilst maintaining that knee tracking in line with your feet. And you come back up and down you go again. So we're opening up the hips to enable that alignment from your knee through your feet, going as low as you can, continuing for 8 to 10 repetitions of this exercise. There you have a sumo squat. This exercise is a deep squat. You'll start with your feet shoulder width apart and you'll squat down as far as you can into a seated position. Your knees should stay in line with your feet. You can place your elbows inside of your knees and palms together. This exercise is creating mobility not only through the hip joint but the ankle joint as well. To look at that side on, I'm sitting back as far as I can, keeping my body as vertical as is comfortable for me. There we have a deep squat. Ideally, you'll hold that for up to 2 minutes. This exercise is a lateral lunge rocker. You'll start with your feet wide apart and point one foot to the side and your other foot will be pointing forward. You'll lunge in the direction of the foot pointing to the side and then you'll pivot both feet and lunge in the other direction. So rocking from side to side, going into as deep a lunge as is comfortable for you. Obviously another exercise to develop mobility through the hips. Moving slowly from side to side, 8 to 10 repetitions on each side would be great. There we have the lateral lunge rocker. This exercise is called a horse rider stretch. You'll start with your hands and your feet on the floor in a downward dog type position, and from there bring one knee and foot through outside of your hands. So you've got one leg outside of your hands and the back leg is extended back as far as you can. From this position, lower yourself down, so moving your chest toward the floor as far as you can. If necessary, you can use a block on whichever end is comfortable for you. That is, if you can't get all the way to the floor comfortably. You'll hold this position for up to 2 minutes and you'll feel the stretch throughout the hip area. Once you've held that stretch for 2 minutes, then change to the other side. There you have a horse rider stretch. This exercise is a prone butterfly stretch, that is lying face up, soles of your feet close together and knees wide apart. This is opening up the hips, and to create a greater stretch you can just place your hands on your thighs and pushing down. Once again, keeping your feet as close to your hips as you can. Pushing down on the thighs as far as is comfortable for you. There we have the prone butterfly stretch. This is the seated butterfly stretch. You'll start in an upright seated position with the soles of your feet together. You can either grab your feet and push down on your thighs with your elbows. Alternatively, you can grab your ankles and push down on your thighs, whatever's most comfortable for you. Keeping the feet as close to your body as you can and sitting as upright as is comfortable for you. Hold that stretch ideally from 20 to 30 seconds and then release, and then you can repeat that exercise if you so choose. There we have the seated butterfly stretch. This exercise is a pigeon pose, which is used to develop flexibility and mobility within the hip joint. You'll start in a downward facing dog position and bring one knee through to your wrist and the foot through towards the opposite wrist. From there, you'll extend your back leg as far back as you can and lower your body toward the floor. You can rest your forward on your hands or the floor, whatever's most comfortable for you. And you'll hold that posture for up to 2 minutes. Pushing yourself back up. Once you've done one side, then repeat on the other. There we have the pigeon pose. This exercise is a stretch for the piriformis muscle, which is in the hips, tucked in behind the gluteals. You'll start in a tabletop position and then bring your foot of one leg forward toward the opposite hand. What we're aiming for is to keep your hip directly above your knee and push the hip out to the side. You'll feel this stretch within the hip joint. And then release and perform that stretch on the other side. This is a fire hydrant mobility exercise, starting in a tabletop position with your hands directly below your shoulders and your knees hip width and directly below your hips. You'll simply lift one knee off the floor and lift it out to the side of your body and then back to the middle. Lifting it out and back to the middle. You can repeat that 8 to 10 times. There you have the fire hydrant mobility exercise. This mobility exercise is a hip circumduction. We'll start in a tabletop position with your knees directly below your hips, hands directly below your shoulders. Lifting one knee off the floor and bring that knee forward and then take it out to the side, rotate it back, bring it forward, out to the side, take it back, bring it forward. So you're rotating the hip as wide as you can, all the way forward, out to the side, back and forward. Once you've performed that hip circumduction on one side, then do the same on the other side. This is an exercise to increase mobility through the hip joint. You'll start with a band tied between a rig around hip height. And you're going to start with one foot either side of that band. You're going to duck under that band and open your hips and your chest away from the band and then duck back under, rotating the hips to the other side. As I said, this is great for creating mobility through the hip and gets the hips moving in the way that they're meant to. Ducking under, rotate to open, duck under, rotate to under. You can repeat that 10 to 15 times, have a rest and do it again.